I think if we talk about my TEDx talk, which is really about how I overcame loss in my own life and how I started again. I think that in
Mm.
general, we're not taught as we grow up, as we go through life, we're not taught that change is inevitable. We're not taught that uncertainty is a certainty. Now, we know this because we all experience change every minute, every day. We experience uncertainty because we can't predict the future. So we all experience this. And as kids, we might have some big losses or little losses. And certainly as we get older, we have all different kinds of losses that can occur in our life. So this is
Right.
absolutely natural. It's absolutely going to happen. And things are going to change moment by moment. But we're really not taught that. We experience it. And when it happens, what we are taught and what we see other adults and other people doing is trying to fix everything or trying to keep everything the way it was. Or we don't see people. We know that sometimes one of the stages of grief is to go to acceptance, but we don't see people all the time going to that or even getting there. And I certainly thought at some point, years down the road, that I'd finally accepted my divorce. I was finally healed. I was finally okay.
Yeah.
And until I really examined it in the selling of my house, which I was like, it was like the last thing I was holding on to and gripping so tightly. I can't lose this thing. This will be the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Um, I've had to go through that. There was really nothing else I could do. And it just opened my eyes completely to the nature of life.
I want to get to your TEDx in detail, but you just said something that struck me during that time period. When I was listening to your talk a couple of days ago and again this morning, it really brought home to me. You had to create a vacuum in order to heal. Would you say that's right? Am I
Well,
kind of off?
I don't know if it was a complete vacuum, but certainly space. If we talk about, if
Okay.
you're talking about a vacuum, we're talking about space.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In my mind, that word is synonymous with what I'm hoping you're describing. And yes, I did have to create space because we try and keep things the same. We try and do so many things to keep ourselves feeling good that we don't have that space. And one thing, this is just anecdotal, I'll just tell you quickly
Yeah.
that, and I talk about this in my book because I can't talk about everything in my TEDx talk. But one
Exactly.
thing that I started to do too, which went along with the whole program of just trying to keep things as they were, was whenever I would have that space, that uncomfortable time when, let's say, the kids were with my ex, I wanted to fill it up. I did not want to be alone. I wanted to find new friends. I wanted to go out. I wanted to do something because that space was uncomfortable. And at some point, I also realized that if I didn't create that space and allow for that space, that new things could not enter my life. That
Hmm.
became something that I was playing with, and it was something that just kept coming back. And even the other day, like a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm not planning anything this weekend because maybe something that's waiting to come into my life is waiting for me to slow down. So
Right.
that's exactly right. I believe that.
Okay. And yeah, there are synonymous because that's space. A vacuum to me is the same thing. You create a vacuum, create space, something else worthwhile fills a spot. So I like that. And I'm glad we're on the same page there because I really got that from your talk that day. Glenn, if you're going to let this divorce issue go by you, create the space so other things can take over.